Live.
Good afternoon. My name is Nick Klukstall, host of The Kluk Factor with Nick Klukstall. It is a rainy afternoon on this January 11th, 2021, day of no other than the National College Football Championship today, with the Ohio State versus the Alabama Crimson Tide. I'm here with one of my good friends, Tyler Webb.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, sophomore, right?
Yes,
at
sir.
University of Georgia.
Yeah.
What is your major?
Studying business.
There you go, studying business. I as well as in business school. He's an, up and coming artist. I mean, what do you ultimately see yourself doing with music?
I'm just trying to become a producer right now. There's a lot of work that goes into songs like that people don't really see. They master it and mix it, and really the final product that we hear on the radio has a lot of steps put into it, and I want to be the man behind the scenes, the mastermind. That's what I'm going for. So
say less. All right, well, let's dive right into it. Let's talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide first. With this game, 12-0, undefeated, just blew out every competition they had, it seemed like. Never really had a game where they got nervous. You could say the Florida game, but we'll talk about that later. But then, what do you see with the Alabama today?
Well, they have the longest active streak of being the favorite.
I cannot think of the time where Vegas had them as the underdog.
Yep, it's been 82 games, I think I saw earlier. And so that alone speaks for itself. Ohio State is coming into this the underdog. However, after last week against Clemson, there are some people who would argue that they have a fair shot at this game.
Clemson's Clemson for a reason, You don't just beat Clemson and then not say that you can't beat Alabama.
Trevor Lawrence, he's only lost, 3 games since high school?
Since high school.
That says something about this Ohio State team.
Always made the playoffs, too.
And I definitely think Justin Fields, he has something to prove. The Big Ten originally canceled their season. I'm so glad they ended up, reversing that decision and getting some games in. But I think Fields, certainly, he has something to prove. And we need to watch out for him, especially if his injury, he got hit in the ribs, right?
Yeah, that hit by the
I think if Fields is healthy and he's feeling good today, Ohio State's going to give them a run for their money.
Yeah, let's get back to Bama, though. I think the number one thing for Bama to win, they're the favorite, don't go one-dimensional. You've beaten everyone by dominating the ground game and then just explosive play action. Just not even play action, just passing. It's putting up points immediately. Another thing is Najee. Just run game. Najee Harris, feed him. And if this defense adjusts to that, like I said, open up the play action, get the passing game. It's not like Mac Jones can't freaking throw the ball. His receiver just won Heisman. The first player to do it in 25 years? It speaks for itself.
You definitely need to watch out for the Alabama offense. 3 of their players were 5 of the final contestants for the Heisman Trophy, so that alone speaks volumes. I think for Ohio State to win, they certainly need to contain Najee Harris and shut down the run game so that they have a chance.
Absolutely, and if they get Waddle to get back tonight, we don't know right now. As of right now, he's listed as questionable. He's been out since October 24th last year with his injury to his ankle. But if he gets back, he's already a first-round pick. There's no debating that he's not going to be able to help contribute to win a national championship. I feel like, as a football player, you've been doing this since you were in elementary school. You put your heart out for this. It's not just about, I'm going to make millions in the NFL. You still want to win that ring.
Certainly. If Waddle comes back, he will certainly be an asset.
All right, let's get back to Ohio State. Number one thing, I have to look at Justin Fields' health and mobility. Yeah. If he's healthy and he can move around without being afraid of taking a hit, his mobility is much, much better than Mac Jones. Yeah. He's going to be able to get players, Chris Olave, be able to get Trey Sermon out in the flats, on and on and on.
Yes. And that is that style of quarterback has definitely given Alabama problems in the past.
Absolutely.
If they cannot contain Fields, they will not win the game.
No, they will not. And back to what I was saying was Trey's Sermon.
Oh, yeah.
If he can get that ground game going, he's lowering his shoulder. Reminds me of Marshawn Lynch.
He's
sometimes.
a dog.
He just lowers it. You can't just shoelace tackle him. You can't grab his jersey. You got to wrap around him.
He runs hard, 100% effort every play, 110%.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then also for Ohio State to beat Bama, they got to make Bama one-dimensional. And with that happening, I think you've got to take away the run game, make Mac Jones make decision to throw it. Now, being said, I know he's a great passer, but someone can't just throw the ball 60 times. I personally don't believe. Or 45 times, let's be a little more realistic, and not have a turnover, make a mistake, run out of the pocket, maybe fumble or something. If you let Bama, just get all over you, that's just not going to work. And I think one way you can see it is also back to Trey Sermon developing that ground game. You look at the Notre Dame game, 3 weeks ago. Notre Dame actually did not have a bad game against Alabama. Held them to 31 points. Only one quarter did Alabama score more than 2 scores. If you can make Alabama score a touchdown, a field goal, a touchdown, another touchdown, maybe 24 points, you have a legitimate chance. And the other games compared to Georgia or Auburn, when Alabama has a 21, 24-point quarter, I think it gets the game away. You can't fall back. You can't score 1 touchdown in 1 quarter while you let Bama score 3 touchdowns in that quarter. And that's what happened against Georgia, Auburn, LSU. Like, they just manhandled them. Now, another option you could say is go just touchdown for touchdown with them, which we saw in the SEC Championship with Kyle Trask in Florida. Just you aired out. You just score. But that's a shootout. And if you want to shoot out with Bama, I feel like you're going to be the team to make the first mistake before they do.
What's the over on this game?
Let me check real quick.
I'm guessing it's like...
What's your guess?
60 plus, easily.
I gotta say 65. Let's see. 74.5.
Oh yeah, I mean,
they think it's gonna be a shootout.
Yeah, with both of these high-powered offenses, I mean, it's a guaranteed shootout. It's honestly gonna be up to the turnover margin. Who can make a big defensive stop at a clutch time? That's what's going to determine this.
And mentally, I think that whoever makes the first mistake mentally, they're automatically, with all the pressure of a national championship game on the line.
Yeah.
You have Justin Fields with that first pick, or Mac Jones, and be like, damn, I just made a huge mistake. Yeah. I got to step up. When it's not as easy as regular season game. We obviously know that.
You can't ignore the psychological aspect of playing in the national championship.
Absolutely, absolutely. They have Vegas has Bama as an 8.5-point favorite. I personally think that's a little high. I don't think that Ohio State's just going to lose, to not lose like that, to two scores to Bama. I don't think Bama could have beaten Clemson, honestly. I think now Trevor Lawrence had a really rough game. I mean, you could say it's almost like Big Ben-esh from what he did last night, the favorite and everything. But 8.5, how do you feel about that?
8.5, I think that gives you a pretty safe bet if you take Ohio State.
I think they'll definitely cover that.
Because there's some people who think Ohio State could win straight up on the money line. But I think Vegas always knows something, that we don't.
Absolutely. Whether they pay the refs or someone, we'll see about that.
They try to keep these refs, unbiased.
All right, so who do you think is going to be more valuable to Ohio State winning? Would you say Justin Fields or Trey Sermon? Developing the ground game or getting the passing game?
I think that Sermon is certainly going to be a huge asset. So Alabama, in order to win this game, they're going to need to tackle. They cannot just hit guys and bounce off of them, because Trey Sermon is going to run and get every inch that he possibly can. They're going to have to be disciplined in their tackling, and if they want to contain him. And if Ohio State is allowed to start ramping up that running game, get Trey Sermon going, it's going to open wide up for the play action passes, the big, deep bombs that you do not want to see if you're Alabama.
Which we've seen Alabama's defense get exposed before earlier this year. Ole Miss put up 48 points on them. That is Lane Kiffin. He knows Bama well, but still, you can't think that Nick Saban winning that game and still getting 48 points put on their defense is proud of that. There's no way.
Not a chance.
Matt Corral, 365 yards that game. The running backs had 128 and 181. That's absurd. But let's see what else. Najee Harris or Devontae Smith. Who is going to be more valuable to Alabama? With Mac Jones ultimately, being the quarterback and everything. Do you think who's going to have a bigger role to put the game away or seal the game? You know what I'm saying?
I can see definitely Devontae Smith coming off a Heisman Trophy win. I think he's going to have a huge day. And I think Mac Jones is going to be looking for him very often. And the fact that they have such a valuable asset out there on the wing, that is going to open up a lot of opportunities for Harris as well.
And I think if you have Waddle out there, you can't just leave Waddle one-on-one. You
Not
can't leave
at all.
any of them, even John Mechie, excuse me. All three of those receivers, explosive.
Certainly.
You got to double team someone. If you spread the field out with all three of them, you're gonna have to drop back your linebackers, bring up the safeties and give help. It's not just gonna be a one-on-one game because these receivers will destroy the DBs. Now back to Ohio State. Now to Ohio State's DBs. Excuse me. I think the number one way, another big way for Ohio State to win this game would be Shaun Wade, Ohio State's DB, star DB. If he can hold Devontae Smith, Devontae Smith is going to get his catches. He's going to get 6, 8, 12, maybe not 12. Let's 9 catches. But now if you can hold him to 9 catches, 67 yards, which
you got to limit that yards per catch. That's what you have to.
It's exactly like for instance, Kobe Bryant in basketball. He's going to get his 35 shots every game. But if you hold him to 35 shots, 21 points, bad field goal percentage, low receiving yards average, and those yards after the catch, if you gotta tackle him right when he catches it, you gotta have bodies flying right to him and not let him get into the open field because we've seen what he does in the open field. Makes those jukes, the acceleration.
His footwork is unmatched, and
that goes for Waddle too. They're both very, very, very good athletes, and they're not first round. Well, I like to believe Najee Harris will be a first round pick. I personally believe he'll be a first round pick. I believe he's better than ETN. But
we're looking at
picks, and they got to step it up.
We're looking at the 2019, the LSU team from 2019. Probably
the stats are
probably one of the best college football teams to ever play a season. Undefeated season, perfect season. Had the first pick of the draft.
They had what, if I remember, 20 players that went drafted. Which look at them now.
And we have this year. We have Alabama matching or beating all of the offensive stats of that team. So that does speak wonders, and it just shows you how much that the Alabama offense is a very real threat. So Ohio State needs to come prepared for that.
Absolutely. And another thing let's go back to Ohio State as the underdog. We'll focus more on them to try to win 3 and outs and turnovers.
Yes.
3 and outs and turnovers. You get another chance. Every chance you get to be able to get Alabama off the field. You cannot have Alabama just on the field. It's draining for the defense.
And in order to win, they need to get Alabama off the field, but they also need to keep them off the field. And they need to have these long drives that wear down the defense. They need to control the ball with Trey Sermon. They need to get 5-6 yards of play running the ball, get a few pass plays, but they need to control the clock if they want a chance of winning this game.
Do you feel that Ryan Day is going to let Justin Fields be loose? And by that, I mean be able to throw some quarterback runs, quarterback draws with him being hurt. There's speculation that they were lying about their COVID tests so that they could give him another week
to
heal up. Do you think that Ryan Day is going to open the door wide open for Justin Fields to be able to run around, be elusive? What do you think he wants him to stay in the pocket, get rid of the ball fast? I
think certainly at first he's going to want to keep him in the pocket because Trey Sermon he can handle the run game on his own. I think you want to keep Fields healthy, and it's more about you don't want him taking a hit early in the game and getting him, in pain the rest of the game because that's definitely going to affect his throwing and his decision making later on. So I certainly think you want to keep the ball on the ground early with Trey Sermon, keep Fields in the pocket, but then as the game progresses, as we need more clutch plays, he's going to free him up a little bit, run pass options, etc., and free Justin Fields.
If I'm Nick Saban, I'm saying to my edge rushers and linebackers, when we blitz, you got to hit Fields hard.
They are going to be coming for him.
You've got to not intentionally hurt him like Bounty Gate with the Saints and all
not like that.
But you want to, if you're going to tackle him,
they want to
sack
put pressure on Fields.
Lay the metal on him, hit stick his ass, Hit him hard where it hurts. Let's see what else. Control the clock. Bama, I don't think that's really ever been an issue for them. With their explosive offense, I don't think they've ever really necessarily said, let's control the clock. I think it's with their offense.
It kind of just happens naturally.
It's just throw it, deep ball. Exactly.
That's what. Certainly a big key for Ohio State will be controlling the clock.
What do you think it's going to do for Nick Saban's future? What do I say? His legacy. I mean, if he wins this.
Oh, if he wins this game?
Yes. In the COVID year, where we'll never see something like this again, he was able to play all their games, 12-0, control COVID. I mean, we'll talk about Ohio State and their COVID problems. I mean, they only played 6 games this year. But with Nick Saban doing such a great job of coaching, make sure his players stay quarantined, not have games canceled, and then win another championship. If I'm correct, his fifth in 10 years, 20 years, 10 years, excuse me.
Yeah. Certainly puts Saban as if not one of the greatest college coaches of all time. I mean, what he's done for Alabama is unprecedented. We've never seen such
cultural change.
We've never seen such a dominant culture out of any head coach in history. And I mean, ever since I started watching football, it's always been Alabama Saban. You know, he consistently gets all these 5-star recruits. His culture of work and the dedication that he brings out of his players. I mean, if he wins this championship, undisputed GOAT for me.
And now I'll flip the coin over to Ryan Day, Ohio State's head coach. Do you genuinely feel that Ohio State even should have been in the playoffs?
This year, with a 6-win season?
Before they beat Clemson, which obviously if he beat Clemson, I feel like he deserved to be in the playoffs. But before that, I guess now I can say they've proven it, but before that, do you think they should have gotten over A&M, who played more games? Georgia, who also had 2 losses, but 2 losses to top teams. Even Indiana, Florida.
Well, I think you need to look at who could have beat Clemson. And I think all the teams you just listed, I don't think they could have done it. So even though that some people would argue that 6 wins might not have been enough of a resume to get Ohio State in the playoff, Ohio State's the most winningest percentage high school team or college team of all time. Mm-hmm. So they have the highest winning. So they have that, reputation. And I think that they did take a slight chance by allowing them to get in the playoff, but by them beating Clemson, they said any doubt that people had, they ended that right there.
Absolutely.
So absolutely. I'm ready to see.
Now those 6 games that they did play, there were a couple games that scared me. The Northwestern game, the Big Ten championship, they were losing that, and then
they did have 18 of their players out.
Yeah, that is a huge deal. And then Fields has shown that he is human and can make errors. He had 3 interceptions against Indiana, and that was Indiana when they were ranked 8th at the moment. Yeah. And those passes were bad. I mean, he was looking like Ben Roethlisberger last night.
Yeah, he
just
can't
throwing
do that
it off. He needs to keep his mind. I feel like Justin Fields, he didn't really get any playing time at Georgia. That's why he ultimately transferred. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that really, don't get me wrong, Justin Fields is a great player. He's a top 5 draft pick this year.
But it hurt his development.
I would absolutely agree, so having to transfer schools. When you look at someone like Trevor Lawrence, who's been there every year.
And he started since he was a freshman.
Absolutely. But I can also say one thing about Justin Fields. I think he's proven the doubters wrong every time. If they say, I keep reading, his arm strength. His arm looked pretty good.
Yes,
touchdowns. I mean, you're throwing 60, 50-yard bombs against Clemson. I want to say he threw 3 or 4 of them, it seemed like. It's absolutely bomb.
I think if you put Fields on Georgia this season, you say you let Fields start over from back a year or 2 ago. I personally was at a Georgia game 2 years ago when they would put Fields in, the whole stadium would stand up, start cheering, and this was before COVID. This was a sold-out Sanford Stadium. The energy that Fields brought to Georgia, you can't really describe that. And the fact that we don't know everything that went on, but the fact that Kirby didn't see that potential in Fields and he let him go, I mean, that says something. And I know Ohio State fans were very happy to pick Fields up, and so he does have something to prove. He has that little chip on his shoulder. He said, "You know what? You never let me start, Kirby."
Yeah,
you picked.
Well, let's not talk too much about Georgia. They
go Dogs.
Like you say, go Dogs, but they definitely hurt the hearts of many of us here in Athens, Georgia.
Terrible season.
But I think that's pretty good. What analysis of the game, and I'm really looking forward to it. Before we sign off, what is your final score? You got to put money on it, but just say this is the final score by predicting it. Not who you want to win, any biasness towards players or teams, or conferences.
All right.
What is your final score?
49-42, Ohio State, baby.
49-42.
All
right, I'm going to tell you mine. 45-38, Ohio State.
So we're both picking Ohio State.
We are both taking Ohio State. I think Ohio State's defense
we'll see what happens.
Out more. All right, it was a great honor to have you here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
This is Kluk Factor. We're looking forward to many more episodes. We'll see you later.
Happy National Championship, boys.